Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and we are here today taking a closer look at the refresh of Crash Site. Crash Site 2.0, if you will. Respawn went in, they gave us 8 zip lines on the map now, which I think are very well placed. We'll talk quite a bit about them today. I think they're the biggest change to Crash Site. But they also went in and they cleaned up over 100 instances of players just being caught up, tripped up. You know, all of these random little ledges used to get caught on, the invisible auto mantle locations on the map that would really break up your flow, whether you were just navigating the map normally or slide hopping. It was a map that had some inconsistencies. I think that's the best way to put it. I've always actually liked the layout of Crash Site. I just felt it was a little rough around the edges. They've actually also gone in and made some pretty substantial geometry changes that we'll talk about a little bit later. But it just didn't have the necessary flow. I guess that's the best way to put it. It was a map that didn't have the necessary combat flow. And for the majority of players who don't slide hop, it was a map that was very difficult to perform efficient flanks on. You know, it's one thing to have to make like a small flank, like, oh, I'm going to cut through mid and hit him over there when your team's already down low. But if you need to actually go all the way around to perform a flank, you know, to get away from the meat grinder, that can take a lot of time if you are not really efficient at slide hopping or wall running. You know, if you can't link those two together, it was a whole lot of like hop on a wall, fall off. A lot of the walls were really rough. They've definitely cleaned up some of these wall run opportunities, made them more usable. They made it easier to transition from wall run to clear more of the space of the map more quickly. But the zip lines really do have a big part in that. Let's just go ahead and kind of bop our way around the map, slide hopping a little bit so I can, you know, just kind of showcase how much smoother it feels. Now, make no mistake, this is still Crash Site. They haven't turned this into glitch. We're not dealing with a map that is basically one giant slip and slide. We still have an environment that asks quite a bit of the player when it comes to slide hopping. You really have to know where to go, the best ways to transition from wall run to slide hop, to get the most out of your speed and your momentum, to get the most out of slide hopping, if you will. It's still not an easy map in that regards. And again, it still requires a lot of player and pilot effort. But I think there were a lot of locations where it was just nonsense and you could get stuck and sort of tripped up on every single corner, every single auto mantle ledge. They seem to have cleaned a lot of that up, and it just feels better to go ahead to get on the flat ground and to start to fool around with them good old-fashioned slide hops. I think it really is just a better experience from that perspective. You know, this is an area alone where you could just get stuck on like everything under the sun. It just feels easier to transition, to get back on flat ground and to make those slides. And for all of the areas in the map where it becomes increasingly difficult, like this area right here to go up rather than just coming down, that's where the zip lines start to play a big part. Now, we do have to obviously point out that the zip lines aren't exactly the perfect choice of navigation in gunfights. You don't want to just like hop on a zip line when there's 10 guys here and then get shot down instantly. But the majority of combat in Crash Site takes place in just several locations on the map. So a lot of the map is actually empty, especially in the pilots versus pilot stage of a match of attrition, or just in PvP. You're not spending all of this time fighting on every single portion of the map. Most of the time, you might spawn over here, and then you need to get to that part of the map to actually engage the enemy with your team. So having these zip lines means that they are going to be used 90% of the time as just flanking tools. So let's actually make our way back to the bottom of the map, and I'll sort of showcase what I'm talking about. We'll make a comparison to how we would have previously navigated from one point to the next, and to how we'll actually do it now with the zip lines in play. Now, I really want to portray this as someone who doesn't slide hop, because this is, I think, is the biggest deal about the zip lines. They are definitely useful for people who slide hop. I'm going to use them all the time. You know, they're going to help me get past some really rough terrain far more efficiently rather than slide hopping, especially in a non-combat environment. So let's say that my team is all the way at back spawn wrapped around the corner here. You know, they're around back spawn. I don't want to cut up middle. I could get to middle, but I don't want to cut up middle. I want to go all the way around and start to hit the enemy from behind. You know, I just want to get a better position. I don't want to go through any meat grinders. I don't want to go through any potential choke points. I want to get the best position possible on the enemy. But I don't slide hop. Normally, that would take me forever. You know, maybe I'd hop up on this wall here. I'd do my best to just kind of make my way through here. I'd be trudging along. All right, I'll just walk up this cliff here. Let me get back on this wall run. Yeah, just get up there. All right, another wall run. It's not terrible, but it's not ideal, right? It's not the perfect way, and I think a lot of people are turned off by that, so they just head into the meat grinder. And I'll be honest, more often than not, I can't blame them. If that's how I navigated terrain, I wouldn't want to spend all day walking around the outside of the map either. I just want to get to the action. I want to get some kills, man. I got to test out my new devotion. So, to test out our new devotion, we're going to use the brand new zip lines. Up onto the line we go. Perfectly transition onto a wall run. Oh, look, there's another zip line. It's like it was put there for me. Onto another wall run. We could even jump our way all the way onto another wall run into this back little canyon here. Make ourselves a nice big juicy flank. We can come out on the back side of the map. We can land right here, start to examine the area, see if we got any enemies. Or we can do it a different way. And this is where I'm going to showcase the first substantial piece of geometry. I want to say geographical. Of geometry change within Crash Site. So let's say we made our way up here just like we did before. We took the zip line. We got ourselves back onto the wall. We hopped off here. We made our way around the corner. Oh, okay, I'm going to wall run over here. Now I can transition to this wall run, and I can actually make my way up here. They've completely cleaned off this little rock face. It no longer has the sort of out-of-boundaries rock face it once had, which means you're not forced to make your way down through here. You've now got two different elevation options. So if I make my way back up there, I also have the perfect transition. You know, previously you'd be down there, you'd be really low, kind of in... yeah, you know, hanging out in the danger zone, right? But now I'm up high. I can make my way across the gap here onto this wall run surface, and then I can make my way all the way across to this wall run. You know, it's just far easier to link things now without the need for slide hopping. I'm now exactly where I wanted to be. I'm around the backside of the map. I can see the enemy. I can engage, and we've led ourselves to another great zipline location. So I like this zipline here quite a bit because it gives you a very clear and a very quick route to actually get past this choke point. This is one of the most potent choke points on the map. It tends to get filled up with titans. This is also a window where enemy titans like to peek. So if you've got enemy titans on that side of the map and they're peeking at your team trying to poke, and you're stuck over here as a pilot and you just want to get a flank, you want to go on the other side of the map, you want to go ahead and actually be able to drop in Titanfall behind enemy lines or on the enemy, you want to hit him with a fire star, you want to start whacking him with your anti-titan weapon, whatever the case may be. Previously, you'd pretty much have to get down and dirty. You'd go down through here, maybe try and wall run and make that jump up there, or you'd go ahead and take this route right here, which might lead you into an enemy encampment. Maybe somebody's already positioned here, feeding off of your team. It's just one of those choke points that gets really feisty. You need a way to get around it, and that's where this zipline comes into play. Again, ziplines are readable. People are going to be potentially looking at ziplines, looking for enemies to make use of them. But I say that this zipline is still far better and far less risky than going down low. We can now transition off the wall into the back flanking route here behind enemy lines, make our way through this wonderful little flanking opportunity, and come out behind the enemy right where we want to be. We can now consider what we're going to do next. Do I want to call in a Titan? Do I want to engage the enemy from behind? Either way, you made your way around the backside of the map much more quickly than you would have before. And the same goes for this way. If I'm coming up this side of the map and I want to avoid all of this nonsense down here, I mean, this is one of those things that happens right off the break on Crash Site. A lot of teams will flank around this side of the map, right? They'll come through here, and right here is another choke point. So the two teams will clash right dead center as the other team comes across that midpoint. Now, I can actually avoid that, and I can put myself in a position to surprise the enemy from a different angle. So we no longer have to try and deal with that choke point from just one angle. We can now pinch the enemy as they come out, and I can also start to deal with any enemies that might be flanking around this side of the map. I think, all in all, these zip lines, again, regardless of your current mobility skill level, are going to do a lot for combat flow. They're going to encourage players to flank more often because they can do it more efficiently and more rapidly more of the time. This, to me, is a massive improvement to Crash Site. Again, it is still Crash Site. It still requires a lot of nuance. If you're going to complain about getting stuck on things while slide hopping, this is just one of those more difficult environments, and you have to accept that. But I think, as a whole, for everyone involved in the Titanfall 2 community, this is an improvement. You know, you can't just act as if everyone slide hops. Most people don't, in fact. I think the average player in Titanfall 2, especially on Xbox One and PlayStation 4, doesn't slide hop. You know, they need ways to get around the map just as quickly as someone who slide hops does, or at least as nearly as quickly. You'll never be able to outdo a really high-speed slide hopper, but combine these routes with Stim, and you've got an environment where, you know, you can really do what you need to do. There is one thing I would like to see Respawn do, and that is to actually allow us to carry momentum on to the zip lines. I think that would make zip lines a lot of fun. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. A little bit of a deep dive into Crash Site 2.0. If you've already experienced Crash Site 2.0, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What was your experience like? And I also want to know what type of player you are, because I think that matters a lot. Are you a low mobility player who wall runs and occasionally slides but doesn't slide hop full on? Let me know what your experience has been like on Crash Site based on your personal skill level with the mobility mechanics of Titanfall 2. Any other questions or thoughts for me? Feel free to throw them down in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, remember to play smart, remember to play to challenge yourself, but most importantly, remember to play for fun.